call this regular scheduled meeting of November 13th of the Plain Township Board of Trustees to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to all. We have the agenda in front of us. Do we have any corrections, deletions, additions? Trustee Hall.
Concerns of trustees, Stark County Township Association.
Anything else?
Yes, under administrator, I can remove number 5, clout.
And for the record, our law director is excused tonight, Eric Williams. Anything else? The agenda then, you know, I'm going to add one more. I just thought of something. I'm going to add under concerns of trustees. Veterans Day. Okay, so we will begin with the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $222,301.06.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
I'll move on. Fiscal officer number 3.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report for October. If there's any questions, I'll be available after the meeting. Fiscal Officer number 5 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for EMS as requested by Ohio Billing.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the Fiscal Officer report.
Hey Tom, just part of the question, I may be jumping ahead too early, but every year, is it typically the end of November meeting, we start talking about making sure we control the timing of our expenses between year end, or is that, maybe put the cart before the horse, but.
Correct,
Yeah.
Is it?
We'll be looking at the
Yeah.
timing because we had the meeting in December that we had to move up because of Christmas and make sure we don't have too much in the way of carryovers and making sure all the POs close out.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. That takes us to the administrator.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to pay for the U.S. Postal Service for the postage of the 2018 Township Winter Newsletter in an amount not to exceed $4,500.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to approve the printing, creation, and editing of the 2018 Plain Township newsletter at an amount not to exceed $4,000.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Yes, this will actually be more of a winter-spring newsletter. We're at the point where we're able to go two times a year for the newsletter. That doesn't mean that we can't create something and put on any of our social media sites, Facebook.
We need a special communication.
If we need a special communication to get it out, but this way it saves some money.
Okay. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 3 is a resolution that allows the Board of Trustees to sell at private property or to sell at a private sale if you determine the property is no longer needed and the value is less than $1,000. This is for accumulated scrap metal, which it no longer is in need and has a salvage value less than $1,000. They are 2 sheriff cruisers. So be hereby resolved that these vehicles with said above VIN numbers be sold as scrap metal.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
Yes,
These
that's,
are-
actually,
these are
yes,
ones that were down at
these
the-
were down at
The training.
the training building.
Mhm.
So our fire department got a chance to practice, train, extract, so forth, which is, we'll get the same amount of scrap is scrap, but it allows them to get some training in.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Lastly, I have an update on the yard waste site dates and times. This is more of our winter operation, so starting on December 3rd to January 12th, we'll go back to being open 3 days a week, which will be Monday, Wednesday, Saturday from 8 to 6, which were our original 3 days. January 12th will be the last day it'll be open, and then we'll do a winter shutdown. We keep it open through the 12th so people can drop off. Yeah, they're stripped down Christmas trees, and the road department has offered to chip those for us.
Is a point of just discussion, I mean, because this has been our first year going through the revised financial model based upon the joint solid waste district. I mean, based upon timing of traffic, volume, I mean, are we noticing any significant changes in activity, whether it's volume or it's calls in? Because I can tell you, I haven't received a single call.
I only did
It's been
early
very
on.
busy.
Early on.
This last
And
week
that
was
was
very
it.
busy.
Yeah.
We have a lot of material sitting on the ground right now, waiting for earth and wood to haul it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So-
that's mine.
Yeah, the leaves dropped so late and are still dropping, we knew that we would get this hit. So we've been holding okay with the funding from them. Chances are good we will run out. It'll be just a watch to see how close we can get to our shutdown date. So
Okay.
it'll give us a good idea.
Mhm.
What I think we owe it to, is we monitor that, see if the joint solid waste district, with the sites that didn't
Yes.
Yeah.
move forward, that funding they're sitting on, and that will be distributed, because clearly, I mean, one of our concerns from the beginning was, we already had high volume here, just given our central location, but some of the locations that weren't taking it,
Yeah.
guaranteed to route that traffic right to here, right
Yes.
here.
Yeah, and that has happened, yeah.
So,
Mhm. And that's the end of the administrative
Okay,
report.
thank you. And that takes us to the fire department chief, Schallenberger.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to amend Resolution 18-414 that Joel Gladys and Ross Weimer have successfully completed their Ohio Police and Fire Medical examinations. Joel and Ross will be hired as of 700 hours on August 28th, and is Class 1 career firefighter paramedics with 12-month probationary period.
I'll move on, FD1.
second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Just housekeeping, right?
Yeah, it was a clerical
Yeah.
thing with the classes with their hours per
Mhm.
week, so we had to adjust that.
Okay, all right, good. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the reimbursement listed below in the total amount not to exceed $1,605.40 to bargaining members Ron DeFrancisco for $400, Ben Hirschberger $255.60, Howard Hirschberger $230.24, Cameron Martin $400, Joseph Teal $319.06 for their healthcare membership, according to collective bargaining agreement, to take it out 10A15.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to offer employment to Ryan Sprunger and Isaac Hall for the position of part-time probationary firefighter EMTBs to be hired effective November 14th at 700 hours. And the rate would be at $14.50 an hour and no benefits.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to direct the fire department to place an advertisement for bids for a direct capture diesel system for Plain Township Fire Department Station 2, 3, and 4 to be advertised in a newspaper in Stark County of general circulation on 11/16 and 11/22 of this year in the depository with bids to be received and opened on December 7th of 2018.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
This is part of the process. We got a FEMA grant. We have to advertise for bids according to our threshold amount for construction. So we have to advertise 2 weeks in a row, and then we'll have a process to select a bidder.
And to clarify, there's nothing on state term.
Yeah, there is no state term vendor, so we have to go through a bid process. So we'll take a little bit, but FEMA requires an open bidding to, make sure they're getting, quality bids and purchases from the agencies.
Yeah, this is, because that is a federal grant, and they audit all that stuff close. So, this exhaust system is going to be put probably eventually in every fire station around the country. There's a big push now to eliminate the accumulation of diesel fumes based on the carcinogens and what's involved in the toxic environment that those give off. And when you think about it, they start up and then pull out and then they back in as they're running. So for every call, that is being generated twice at least. And so this obviously attaches and helps get rid of some of that as well. So well needed, that's for sure.
And there's
Long
job
time
grant,
coming.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a focus in the American Fire Service, so we're doing the right thing, that's for sure. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes, good job, Joe.
Thank you.
And that takes us to the road department. Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is a resolution by the Board of Trustees to authorize the posting of temporary no parking signs for the Stark County, Ohio High School Championship games to be posted on both sides of the streets listed. The streets will be put up, the signs will be put up, posted on November 28th and removed on December 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. You guys have this down to a science, don't you?
Well, the area is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And this takes care of what we discussed.
Yes.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to contract with Backhoe Excavating for the Linford Avenue Storm Sewer Project. Backhoe Excavating will evacuate trench, bed pipe, gravel, backfill, and excavated material and compact, not to exceed $49,925.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Long time
Yeah.
coming.
These people have been suffering a long time.
This portion here helps us get farther up the road for this year.
Yeah.
We'll get nearly 1,000 feet of pipe in between the commissioners and us.
That's been a since,
Oh.
That was
since
pretty-
I was
pretty-
here, it's
yeah.
been over 12
Yeah,
years.
This is fine, it's not.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, all the different grant applications and the
We-
partners and the scoring
Yeah.
and the,
Yeah.
We applied, I think, every year for OPWC, and just because there weren't, you can't make up partners,
Different things kept us off.
Yeah.
So,
So now this is
Can be huge
long
it's the
time.
for
first
them.
year, the first phase, and we'll continue to do phases as we can.
But to alleviate that flooding is,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 3 is the Stark County Engineers Highway Mileage Certificate that we receive every year with what we've lost due to annexation and what we've gained due to new allotments. And as of this year, we're a negative tenth of a mile, a little bit plus tenth of a mile.
What are we, 171?
No, 174, we're still 170. This is just what they lost, maybe from annexations over by the Hall of Fame. And then we gained some with the new allotments that were being built. So it almost equaled out what we lost.
Actually went up.
No, it went down to 10, so that was
Just
barely.
barely. Okay, Joe, thanks.
Thank you.
Good job. Tom? So this takes us to zoning.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item on the agenda is a resolution to declare item A as a nuisance abatement.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And the second item on the agenda is a resolution for abatement pays, items A through O. There's quite a few there.
Wow.
Yeah.
A through O.
Yeah.
Also moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll. Go ahead.
There's quite a few there. This, because of all the activity at the parks, and at the end of the season, we tried to pick up as many of the habituals as we could, so we could go, start off next year fresh.
Yeah. That's good timing too, actually. Yeah. Good job.
That's really it.
Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Thanks, Tom. That takes us to parks. Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment to Central Allied in the amount of $3583.26 from Fund 01B05E for the remainder of the materials used to repair the Dining East parking lot.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution from the Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Miller and Company in the amount of $2315 to be taken from Fund 14A08A for the boarding ground service at Diamond Park during the Bothwell Cup.
So moved.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 3 is a resolution to submit before the electorate of Plain Township a 1.5 mil levy outside the 10 mil limitation for parks and recreational purposes for a period not to exceed 5 years.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And that concludes parks. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to do a quick follow-up. Actually, I had Veterans Day on, but this is probably a good time to do it. I just want to commend you,
Thank you.
Rob, for the job you did, and all of the other department heads and employees, and, you know, those people that were involved, the Sheriff's Honor Guard. I apologize, I don't think I mentioned them. I don't remember, and I apologize. But those guys did a great job. You know, obviously, that whole ceremony is just kind of a collective thing of a lot of really classy things going on, and they did a good job as well. So if you could pass that along to them, I would really appreciate that. So I'll take that off.
Can I also say thanks to
Absolutely.
everybody for their help?
Absolutely.
Our 4th year, I think we've really hit a rhythm. It was a really nice event, but I got to the building about a half hour before I promised Chuck, and of course Chuck, being Chuck, already had half the buildings up. His guys were incredible, the guys who drove the shuttles around and made sure folks got to and from safely, and to the valets, to the tear down and clean up, to everybody self-serving, and the volunteers as well were awesome. I want to send a special thank you to fire in the Boy Scout Troop 42, and one of our Patriot Guard members, Kenny Brown, as well as everybody who stuck around to help us tear down. We had those flags torn down.
It was pretty
Yeah.
much a half hour.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
How about the Glen Oak Band?
Oh, they were fantastic.
They were.
So good,
Yeah.
so good.
I've never heard taps
No,
play
me neither.
in a group
Oh,
like that.
so
It was
good.
amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah,
And then on that, John Trapani did a phenomenal
Yeah, he
job.
did.
Flag repair was showing with the
no
trumpet.
doubt.
It was awesome. So thank you.
Okay, thanks again, everybody. That takes us to communications.
Yes, and we do have several communications tonight. The first one is to Rob, and it reads, "Thank you again for sharing your unique insights with the 8th graders at Oakwood. I'm excited for the conversations to come now that they have this new perspective. Thank you." And Rob did give a talk to the 8th grade students at Oakwood, and did a very fine job. Item number 2 is a thank you for the preschool at Childscape. You only had the first page. They actually did a book, Our Day Spent with Firefighter Kelly. And that's a pretty good picture of him, I think.
Yeah, it's close.
I think it's what he looks like, yeah. And it's a whole story about how he tried on his boots, and man, they were smelly. They were so smelly, we had to pluck our nose, and they colored. He took us outside and let us try the hose. Taught about fire safety, and we're glad. And it's just very sweet. It's them coloring it. They took the time with their teacher to create a whole book and a thank you, which is pretty cool.
Saves us the time and effort alone to do it.
Yes, for sure. Then we have another thank you to the fire department. This one is written to Scott from the president of the Historical Society. Thank you so much for your help with our project at Edgefield School. We were sorry it took more time and effort than planned. We appreciate your patience and good humor during our time together. We are hopeful that the items we will recover will be safe for the citizens of Plain Township. And then also a thank you to Chuck. Thank you for helping us set up. Thank you for setting up help for us at Edgefield School. Scott was helpful and friendly. It got somewhat messy and difficult. It made it possible to get items to show in the future from Edgefield. We like working with the fire department. All of you are so friendly and helpful. We appreciate your support. And Chuck does get humble and, with thank yous, and all of these thank yous to the fire department are really just a tribute to the great job that you're doing there, Chuck. And we have one more to the fire department. Thank you so much for your help with getting the artifacts out of Edgefield School. We could not have done it without you. We're great partners. Then we move on to a thank you that we got very quickly to about the Veterans Day event, which reads, "Many thanks for helping to arrange the Veterans Day event for Plain Township veterans. I've been to a couple of these events, and I think former military types appreciate the recognition. Respectfully, John." And he also appreciated Scott's wife bringing cookies after, I think, the big speaking part. So those are all of the communications.
All right, very good. Thank you. That then takes us to the portion of the meeting that, if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board at this time, please give your name and address to the fiscal officer, and you can either come up to the podium.
My name is Tommy Wolf. My address is 2615 Jaguar Street, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44721. And I want to thank Chief Schallenberger for letting me and the Cub Scouts go to the fire station and learn first aid.
Oh, you're quite welcome anytime. Yeah, great group. There was a good bunch of kids there that night, or Cub Scouts kids.
Well, thanks, Tommy.
Yes,
Now you can get back to your real job.
as our IT director.
Anyone else?
Again, for the record, no.
Yeah.
Tommy, how's your mentee doing?
Come back and follow.
He looks real relaxed.
Anyone else? Thank you. That takes us to concerns of trustees. Mr. Haas?
Okay, just a reminder, Thursday, we have our November Stark County Township Association meeting. The health department's hosting that is a matter of business. We were sent by email, I think Marilyn could probably send it to all the trustees. There's a ballot where essentially we're responsible for voting upon the District 19 Public Works Integrating Committee of the Stark County Township members. And essentially there's 2 members and alternates to be selected. One member and alternate is for the large townships, and then 1 member and alternate is for the small townships. So right now, Ralph DeChair from Perry Township is noted as the large township member, with Craig Chesler serving as the alternate. Craig's actually been in that alternate role for, I think, as long as I've been here. The committee, it essentially, when it comes to certain public works dollars, they're able to speak up on behalf of the townships. So when it does come, it's an important role, but it doesn't, there's not a high frequency of meeting there. And then from the small townships, we have Doug Baum from Pike Township, and is an alternate, Paul Mossberger from Pike Township. So I plan on attending the meeting, and I'm going to vote on our behalf, barring no feedback from you guys on wanting other folks in those roles.
No. I think those are
Our representation.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Anything? No, thank you. So we do have approval of the minutes of October 23rd, 2018, and I will move to approve them as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And we do have a need for an executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:27 PM from this regular meeting of 11/13/18, as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, for the purpose of the consideration of 1A, appointment of a public employee or official, 1B, employment of a public employee or official, and 1F, compensation of a public employee or official. Been moved and seconded. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.